I knew something was off the second she walked into the church. Not because she was late. Melanie was always late. But because of what she was wearing. Full-length, fitted, sequined. She didn't even try to blend in. No pastel, no floral, no effort at subtlety. Just bold, blinding white, with a slit up the side and a train that grazed the floor behind her like it was entitled to be there. The photographer actually turned his camera toward her. He thought maybe he'd missed a bridal party memo. I was standing near the entryway, my veil not yet lifted, clutching my bouquet like a lifeline. I saw heads turning, heard the low, curious hum ripple across the room. Then she smiled. That same practiced, toothy grin she used on first dates and unsuspecting strangers, the one that said, "Oh, me? I'm the main event." I should have been surprised. But I wasn't, because I'd seen this before, in smaller ways. In birthdays that weren't hers. In holidays she arrived late to but always left early, after making sure everyone knew she was so busy lately. In every single moment that wasn't about her, until she made it about her. But this was different. This was my wedding, my day, my turn, my chapter. And still, she wrote herself into the middle of the page. Someone near the altar whispered, "Is that her sister?" Another voice said, "Wait. Isn't white supposed to be off limits?" Melanie walked past me like I was furniture. Didn't stop. Didn't smile in my direction. Didn't acknowledge the fact that I was literally about to walk down the aisle to start my life. She just strutted in, full of perfume and pretense, and took a seat in the front row, crossing her legs slowly like it was all part of the show. It was then, in that precise, airless second, I felt something inside me snap. Not loudly. Not violently. Just clean. Like a bone you didn't realize was broken until it stopped holding your weight. That was the moment I knew. I wasn't going to play along this time. No more covering for her. No more swallowing my feelings like confetti. No more letting someone else hijack the narrative just because they'd always gotten away with it. Because this wasn't her table. It was mine. And she didn't even bring a seat. When people meet us for the first time, they always say the same thing. "Wow, your sister's a star." They're not wrong. Melanie shines like someone who never questioned whether she deserved the light. She laughs just a little too loud, tells stories that stretch the truth like taffy, and walks into rooms like they were designed for her entrance. People orbit her without realizing it. It's magnetic, addictive even, and exhausting if you're standing in the shadow. Growing up, I was the quiet one, the easy child, the one who never missed curfew, never lost her backpack, never asked for much. I learned early on that being low maintenance earned you praise. That if I didn't make waves, I wouldn't drown. And I didn't. I stayed afloat, invisible and intact. Melanie, though. She sank sometimes, but when she did, the whole house jumped in after her. I remember one Christmas, I must have been 11. She burst into tears because Mom bought us matching pajamas. She didn't want to look like a child. So Mom let her change into something else, and we retook the family photo without me. Just her, holding the dog, smiling like the whole thing was her idea. That photo still hangs in the hallway. I used to stare at it while brushing my teeth, wondering what it would feel like to be someone worth retaking a picture for. It wasn't just holidays. It was everything. At school, Melanie won most charismatic. I won most reliable. She got a car when she passed her driving test. I got a lecture on insurance premiums. She dated guys who called her goddess. I helped my lab partner pass chemistry. But the real difference, she demanded space. I waited for permission. Melanie knew how to ask, loudly and without apology. I learned to whisper and feel bad about it. She cried when things didn't go her way. I told myself to toughen up. To not make things harder for anyone else. Especially Mom. Mom always looked tired. Like the weight of raising a storm like Melanie left her breathless. So I helped. Quietly. I did dishes no one asked me to. I remembered Aunt Carol's birthday when everyone else forgot. I was the glue no one noticed until something broke. I didn't resent Melanie. Not at first. Because I thought that's just how families worked. Some people got applause. Others made sure the stage was steady. But what I didn't realize then, and what I see so clearly now, is that being dependable isn't the same as being loved. You can be the one who always shows up, who always gives, who never forgets. And still be the one who's forgotten. There's a script in every family, even if no one writes it. And once you've been cast in your role, it's almost impossible to get recast. Melanie was the star. I was the understudy who never got to go on stage. She got the solos in school musicals, even though I had a better voice. She took credit for group projects I quietly finished. She threw tantrums and got hugged, kept calm and got ignored. I used to tell myself it wasn't intentional, that maybe I was just easier to overlook. I didn't scream. I didn't slam doors. I didn't demand to be seen. So they didn't. There was a Thanksgiving, I was 15, when Mom asked Melanie to give a toast. She stood up, radiant in a burgundy dress, and told a story about almost burning the turkey that made everyone laugh. When she finished, Dad raised his glass and said, "To the heartbeat of this family." I remember holding the gravy boat, mid-pass, and wondering if anyone even noticed I hadn't spoken once that night. But I didn't say anything. I just smiled, because asking for recognition felt like begging, and I refused to beg. When I got into college, a full scholarship, something I worked years for, Mom's reaction was, "That's amazing, sweetie. Have you told Melanie?" As if her opinion would validate mine. As if her approval was the certificate that made mine count. I moved out early, 3 states away. Started my own business, my own routine, my own life. I built a world where I wasn't just Melanie's sister, where my name came first. But even then, even in that new city, in that new chapter, I was still cast in the same old part. 'Cause I still sent birthday cards. Still offered to help with flights. Still picked up the phone when Mom called crying about Melanie's latest disaster. Not because I had to. 'Cause I thought that was love. But what I see now, what I've finally accepted, is that unconditional love should never feel like unpaid labor. They assumed I would always show up. That I'd always pay the deposit. That I'd always make room for their needs, even when they never made space for mine. 'Cause I always had. And they never thought I'd stop. But everyone has a breaking point. Mine just happened to be while wearing a wedding dress. Watching my sister hijack my day in a gown that should have never left the rack. The irony is, I planned the whole thing. Every flower, every fork, every minute-by-minute breakdown of the day was me. I didn't just plan a wedding. I orchestrated an experience. 'Cause I wanted it to feel like love. Not just for Daniel and me, but for everyone. I wanted the room to feel soft, warm, chosen. Like the kind of space where people cried happy tears and didn't check their phones. Like the kind of day people remembered for all the right reasons. So I made it happen. I sourced local eucalyptus because Mom said roses were too obvious. I booked the venue near the vineyard Melanie liked so she wouldn't feel out of place. I found a gluten-free dessert option for my cousin, made sure my father's favorite whiskey was stocked, even arranged for a car service so Melanie didn't have to worry about parking. I poured myself into every detail, and by the end I felt hollow. The only person I didn't account for was me. There were nights, quiet, late, heavy nights, when I sat surrounded by checklists and unanswered texts, wondering how I was the one getting married, and yet felt like I was working customer service for an ungrateful team of guests. Melanie barely responded to anything. When she did, her replies came with a fog of sarcasm. "Whatever, it's your wedding. Just let me know where I have to be and when. Don't make it too early. I'm not a morning person." I asked if she wanted to be part of the rehearsal dinner. She said she'd probably just show up late anyway. I asked if she wanted to help pick a reading. She said readings were boring. But she still demanded to be seated front row. Course. It was like trying to set a table for someone who never said what they wanted. Just told you when it wasn't enough. Daniel watched me wear myself thin. He told me gently more than once, "You don't have to keep doing this." But he didn't understand. I wasn't just planning a wedding. I was building a final test, One last perfect event where maybe, just maybe, my family would show up the way I always had for them. That if I got everything right, if the music swelled at the right time, if the lighting was soft enough, if the wine was good enough, then maybe they'd look at me and say it. We see you. But deep down I already knew the truth. They wouldn't. Because they never had. And Melanie, she wasn't planning to celebrate me. She was planning to perform. 3 days before the wedding, I got a text from Melanie. No greeting. No context. Just a photo. It was a gown. Full length. Beaded. A plunging neckline and a dramatic cathedral-length train. Straight from a bridal catalog. Or a delusion. I stared at it for a full minute before responding. It's gorgeous. But, you do know it's my wedding, right? She replied with a winking emoji and, relax. It's just a dress. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that emoji. How it always meant something else when she used it. Not flirtation. Not mischief. Power. The same emoji she used after flipping my science project poster in 7th grade so hers would get a better position on the display board. The same emoji she sent after showing up at my graduation dinner an hour late in a floor-length red dress and pulling focus the entire night. Seen it before. It always meant try and stop me. Still I hoped. Hoped she was joking. Hoped she'd remember boundaries. Just this once. But hope is a dangerous guest to invite to a table already set for disappointment. The morning of the rehearsal, Melanie skipped her call time. She arrived late, sunglasses on, holding a matcha she wouldn't stop talking about. I was up late, she said casually. Last-minute dress fitting. I asked if she wanted to walk through her entrance. She waved a hand. I'll wing it. I watched her glide across the room like she owned it. Not a guest, not a sister, not a part of something, but the lead in a play only she had auditioned for. My mom smiled at her like she was relief incarnate. She's here at least, she whispered to me. As if that was the favor. As if her presence was the gift. Never mind how hard I'd worked. How many times I'd rearranged things to accommodate her. How deeply I'd quieted myself again to make space. The worst part. I didn't say anything. Not then. Because that was still the version of me they knew. The one who smoothed wrinkles instead of pointing to the steam. But that version. She was running out of oxygen. And Melanie, she was lighting matches. The sky was soft that morning. Pale blue, no clouds, the kind of day brides dream about. I arrived before anyone else. The venue was already humming. Florists tucking stems into bouquets. Sound techs checking microphones, the smell of lemon and eucalyptus in the air. I walked through each table, fingertips grazing the linen, memorizing it all. The work, the beauty, the intention. Thought this is mine. Then she arrived. Late. Again. This time, in that same white dress from the photo. It shimmered like glass and arrogance. Even the coordinator blinked, unsure. Is she another bride? She asked. I shook my head. No. She's just my sister. Melanie breezed through the room like the cameras were already rolling. She didn't say hi. She didn't acknowledge the collective tension rising around her like humidity. She just sipped a mimosa someone else had poured and complimented the table settings like she'd designed them. She posed for photos with the groomsmen. She laughed too loud at nothing. She called herself the Bridal Support Unit on Instagram. I was in the dressing room when my maid of honor walked in, face pale. She's seated herself in the front row, she said. Like dead center. I stared at my reflection. Veil pinned. Lipstick perfect. And suddenly all of it felt paper thin. I had spent a year planning this. And somehow it still became about her. But I wasn't going to flinch. Not today. When I walked down the aisle, the music swelled exactly how I imagined it. Daniel's eyes filled. I focused on him, only him, and took each step like it belonged to me. But even from the corner of my eye, I saw her. Sitting there, gleaming, looking like a bride without a groom. People whispered. Someone audibly muttered. Is that the sister? Melanie didn't blink. During the vows, she dabbed her eyes dramatically. During the kiss, she clapped first and loudest. She was building a stage while I was trying to build a home. But I didn't look at her. Not once. Because somewhere between the dress and the performance, I'd made a quiet decision. She could wear white. She could cry. She could twist every spotlight toward herself. But she would not take this from me. Because this moment, this one was mine. The reception was warm. Golden lights strung above long farm tables, soft jazz threading between clinking glasses and low laughter. I should have been floating. Newly married. Newly celebrated. Finally at the center. And for a while I was. We danced. We toasted. Daniel spun me like we were in our own orbit. And for the first time all day, I forgot about the dress. About the whispers. About Melanie. Until she stood up. No one had asked her to speak. There was no slot on the itinerary. No microphone planned for her hands. But she took it anyway. She smiled wide, waved like royalty and said, "I just have to say a few words about my baby sister." A ripple of discomfort moved through the room. Daniel's grip on my hand tightened under the table. Felt my jaw lock. My heart didn't race, it stilled. Melanie launched into a speech that sounded sweet. On the surface. Emily always looked up to me growing up. She used to sneak into my closet and try on my heels. She's always been the quiet one, the steady one, the one who plays it safe. There were chuckles. Few soft smiles. I always knew she'd find someone, calm enough to keep her grounded. Blink. It wasn't what she said. It was how she said it. Laced with glitter-coated condescension. Performative affection masking long-held superiority. It wasn't a toast. It was a pat on the head with a sting. And still I smiled. Let her finish. Let her believe she'd stolen the scene. Because when she handed back the mic, beaming like she'd nailed the monologue, that's when I stood. Not rushed. Not shaky. Not angry. Just steady. Exactly as she'd described me. I took the mic with both hands. And for the first time in years, I didn't think about who might feel uncomfortable. I thought about myself. And what I said next. It wasn't for them. It wasn't for her. It was for me. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't roast her. Didn't snap. Didn't unravel. Just spoke. "Thank you, Melanie," I said, turning to face her, my voice soft but steady. "You've always had a way of making things memorable." People laughed politely. Melanie smirked. "But today I want to share something too." Silence. The kind that settles before a storm. I spent most of my life thinking that love meant staying small, that if I didn't take up too much space, if I didn't ask for much, if I made it easier for everyone else, that maybe that was enough to be loved back. A few heads tilted. But the thing about shrinking yourself is eventually you disappear. And no one notices. Not even the people who claim to know you best. I scanned the room. No trembling. No tears. Just calm truth. I let other people define me. I let them decide which parts were too loud, too quiet, too much. I made myself smaller every time someone else needed to feel big. My mother lowered her gaze. My father shifted in his seat. Melanie's expression didn't change, but something in her posture tightened. And I thought, I continued, that if I just kept proving I was dependable, helpful, invisible enough to never make anyone uncomfortable, then one day I'd finally earn a seat at the table. Pause. Looked at Daniel. "But this man," I smiled. "He doesn't need me to disappear to love me. He doesn't make me earn space. He meets me there, fully." Daniel's eyes welled up. "And today isn't about who I used to be. It's about the woman I've become. Not quiet. Not passive. Not background noise. Breath. I am not here to perform gratitude. I am not here to play a part someone else wrote for me." I looked back at Melanie. Not cruel. Just clear. And from now on, I won't accept love that comes with conditions, or compliments dressed up as insults, or silence that's expected in exchange for peace. The room stayed still. No music. No clinking. Just clarity. So thank you all truly for being here. Not just to celebrate this marriage, But to witness this shift, smiled. I've stopped shrinking. And with that I handed the mic back, walked to my seat. And for the rest of the night, no one tried to speak over me. The next morning my phone lit up like a warning flare. 7:12 a.m. Mom. You embarrassed your sister. She was trying. 7:23 a.m. Dad. Let's not turn this into a whole thing. 7:31 a.m. Melanie. Hope the spotlight felt good. You always did want to be me. I didn't reply. Not out of spite, but because I'd finally understood. Silence isn't passive. Sometimes it's a boundary. Sometimes it's the loudest thing you can say. That day I went on a walk. Alone. No phone. No updates. No explanations. Just me. Breathing. By the time I got back, the group chat had erupted. Mom. We need to have a family dinner. Clear the air. Dad. Maybe an apology on both sides would help. Melanie. I'm the one who was attacked on her wedding day. That's what she called it. Because I'd told the truth. And the truth didn't frame her in soft light. But I didn't respond. Instead, I made breakfast with Daniel, played music, and folded my wedding dress into its box like a memory I wanted to keep, but not relive. The following week I got a letter. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable. My mother's, slanted and careful. Inside was a single paragraph. I reread your vows. I watched the speech back. And I'm sorry. I think I confused your steadiness for strength that didn't need support. I didn't realize how invisible you felt. See you now. If you don't want to come back, I understand. But if you ever do, I promise to seat you at the table. Not beside it. I didn't cry. I didn't rush to respond. I just folded the letter and placed it in the drawer next to the thank you notes I hadn't yet written. Not because I forgot, but because I was learning that thank you shouldn't be an automatic reflex for being barely included. That weekend I hosted a dinner. Not big. Just 6 friends. Mismatched plates. A roast chicken that didn't quite cook evenly. Laughter that shook the walls. No one gave a speech. No one wore white. And no one needed permission to be exactly who they were. Halfway through dessert, my friend raised her glass and said, to choosing peace over performance. And I realized, I wasn't angry anymore. Not at Melanie. Not at my parents. Not even at myself. Because the version of me that stayed quiet. She was trying her best. But she's not at the table anymore. A few nights later, I opened my journal. Not to vent. Not to draft another apology I'd never send. But to write something just for me. At the top of the page I wrote, rules for my table. No one who makes you feel small gets to eat first. Love that comes with terms and conditions isn't love. It's performance. Silence isn't grace if it costs your dignity. If they only value you when you're convenient, it's not connection. It's utility. You don't need a chair at someone else's table if you're capable of building your own. I closed the journal softly. Not like closing a chapter. More like closing a door that no longer leads anywhere I want to go. In the weeks that followed, I didn't hear much from my family. No forwarded birthday memes. No half-hearted check-ins. Just quiet. And for the first time it wasn't painful. It was peaceful. I started waking up without the ache of emotional debt. Stopped drafting texts that read like audition tapes for affection. Stopped paying for seats at tables that never saved one for me. One morning as I was cleaning out my inbox, I found the wedding photos. There was one I hadn't noticed before, taken candidly, probably by a guest. A wide shot of the reception. Everyone laughing, drinks raised. And in the background, slightly blurred, Melanie, in her white dress, standing alone by the bar. It hit me not like a punch but like a mirror. She wasn't the center. She just needed to believe she was. And for years I let her. But not anymore. That version of me, the girl who smiled through discomfort, who paid deposits without being thanked, who translated love into labor. She did her job. She kept us all together. But I don't owe her anything now. Except maybe a goodbye. So I whispered it, quietly, into the space of a still morning. Thank you. And goodbye. And then I got up, poured my coffee, lit a candle, and sat down at a table I built myself. Mismatched chairs. Soft light. No performance required. Just presence. Just peace. Just me. Exactly where I meant to be.